Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Building Web Application with ExtJS 7.6. My name is Andres Villalba and I am a sales engineer at Sencha. We will be having a brief talk about Sencha Ext JS, what it is, how useful it is, followed by a couple of examples on how to build your own application with your own grid and charts. ExtJS is a JavaScript framework for building enterprise data-intensive web applications. With the ExtJS, apps will be faster to develop. This will help you create complex business critical apps that will be alive for several years. Why do we say apps are alive for several years? Well, because the applications you build with the ExtJS will be created using MVC or MVVM architectures, making it easy to maintain and support. Also, ExtJS follows all modern technologies, making your apps compatible with all new browsers and devices, which will in turn make your apps future-proof. It is important to know that ExtJS includes everything a developer needs, which includes more than 140 components, an IDE called Sencha Architect, and tools like Sencha Themer and Sencha Test, which will help you to rapidly build data-intensive cross-platform enterprise web applications. ExtJS is a web front technology based in JavaScript. What it basically does is work with JavaScript, HTML5, and CSS3 to create your apps, meaning you don't need to learn each one of them to actually work. However, this doesn't mean that HTML5 or CSS is not available for you. On the contrary, if you need them, you can easily integrate CSS and HTML to your ExtJS project. So what exactly is included with ExtJS? Well, it includes about 140 UI components. It works with advanced data packages. It is cross-platform. It works with MVC and MVVM architectures. It is object-oriented, which will facilitate group work. It allows you to change the theme by using the Sencha Themer. You have tooling, you have modern web features, and you can also use pre-built templates. In a few minutes, we will be looking at a few examples that are available for you at our kitchen sink. But for now, let me just tell you that two of our most powerful components are the grids and the charts. One of the good things about the grids is that they support large data sets. They have a high performance, they have spreadsheet functionality, you can select ranges, you can copy to clipboard, and you can add paging or the option of an infinite grid. And this is just to mention a few features. ExtJS gives us a lot of options with charts. We have the basics like pie charts and bar charts. However, there are a lot more options that I will show you in a few minutes. All these charts are fully customizable and they can be exported. ExtJS comes in two flavors, the Classic Toolkit and the Modern Toolkit. The Classic basically provides support for most desktop browsers, tablets, and touchscreen laptops, while the Modern Toolkit provides HTML5 application support. This is for all modern browsers, either for desktop or mobile. To better understand ExtJS, what I'm going to do now is show you our kitchen sink. We have it for both our classic and our modern toolkits. Just gonna start with the classic. This tool is available for everybody, and it's a way to see code and see examples. Let's say I want to create a grid and it's my first time using ExtJS. I'm just gonna select a basic grid. As you can see here, it's fully functional. And what's really cool about this tool is that on the right, you can see the code to make this grid work. It has, of course, different parts. It has the view, the controller, the store, and the model. And as you can see here, this is just basic JavaScript. We have an X class that defines a new class, and in there it extends from a different one. So this is just basic object-oriented programming. It is using a declarative syntax, meaning key and value. And as you can see here, it's quite easy to read. We have a title, we have a width and a height, We have a store, meaning where the data comes from. We have columns with different options there. And this is what it's creating the basic grid. We have a controller for interaction, meaning here we have events, functions, and things like that. We also have a store, which is telling ExtJS where the data is coming from and what type of proxy it is using. In this case, it's AJAX. And we have a model telling ExtJS what the data will be. And in this case, we have a few other options down here, but that's not important for this example. Something else I want you to see is that by default, all ExtJS grids come with a sorting engine. So basically, you can sort by any column. And if you wanted to, you can sort by several columns by updating the code. You can also hide and show columns. You can reorder the columns if you want to. And that's out of the box. So you don't have to worry about any of those options. Apart from a basic grid, we also have group grids, which basically they allow you to group by one field. We have selection by checkboxes. We have automatic row numbering, and so on and so forth. So you can see we have a lot of options. I'm just gonna show you a few of them. We have cell editing, where you can edit the contents in line. And notice it adds this little red triangle in the corner, letting you know that you updated that data and it's not saved. And as you can see, depending on the type of data, we have different components. We also have an infinite grid that will load data as you scroll. And as you can see, it's really fast. Right now, you're not seeing the loading screen at all. If I scroll a big portion, then you will see the loading screen, but it will load quite fast. And as you can see here, this is also quite simple to code. Apart from the infinite grid, we also have paging, which can be done in different ways, but what I will be showing you right now is just basically a paging with a progress bar. You can see here, we can switch pages and it will update this progress bar. You can also add a refresh button if you want to. And that's not it. You have a lot of options here. I cannot go through all of them right now, but you can just go to Sencha.com, which will take you to this page and you can just take a look at the kitchen sink. However, what I want to show you is that you can also add filters. One way we do it is with a filter bar, where you can type whatever you want there. Let's say and it will filter the data. Also, if you don't like to do it this way, you can have basic filters inside the header bar. And here you can also search by anything you want. Let's say I just want item 5, and then I want anything above 5. And same deal, depending on the type of column, it's the type of component you will have there. Okay, however, grids is not the only thing we offer. We also have charts. Like I just said before, we have basic charts like column charts, bar charts, and the ones we have here are interactive, but of course we can have them without the option to update. Of course, we have the most common like splines, basic line charts, area charts. We also have a few more that are not that common. So we have box plot. We have these other ones. We have radar charts. And as you can see here, they're also interactive. So basically we can use the tools inside the chart to work through it. You have seen a preview button on the right, which allows you to just look at the basic image and save it from there. Or in some cases, we have the download button over here, where it will just download a PNG file. Another tool that is really useful is the calendar. As you can see here, it's quite powerful. You have a lot of options here. And you can change the format to day, work week, week, and month. And of course, this is quite simple to code. This example you're seeing here is this short, and it's getting all the data from this URL. If you get the enterprise edition of ExtJS, you will also get access to pivot grids, which basically work like you expect them to. You have quite a lot of options. So right now I'm not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to show you a few. Oh, take in mind also that you can have different components, in this case charts, inside the cells of any row and column you want. What else is available for you? Well, we have D3 graphics. So if you get the Enterprise Edition, you will also have these tools available for you. If we go to this menu on the right, we can change to the Modern Toolkit. And you will see basically the same, but this time focused on the Modern Toolkit. Something that I want to show you here is that you can look at different themes here in the kitchen sink. So right now we're looking at the material theme, but I can easily change to an iOS theme or any other theme that I have here. Right now, I'm just gonna jump back to the material. I want to show you something that is relatively new, and that is the material theme for the modern toolkit. Here you can change the style in quite a simple form. In this case, instead of reloading the whole page to change the theme, what it's doing is just changing it on the fly. So this is available for you in the latest version. Let's see. What else? Well, apart from the kitchen sinks, you can see here that you have a bunch of examples. You could try the responsive design demo, the image viewer, the theme viewer, and a few more. However, what I'm going to be showing you right now is the admin dashboard and the executive dashboard. So if I go inside the admin, we can take a look at a bunch of tools here. And this example, this is actually a template. So once we download the ExtJS SDK and the Sencha command tool, we can create this exact dashboard and take a bunch of options out and put the ones we want. So we can use this as a template to build our own application. So the dashboard shows you a bunch of examples, widgets, we have forms, we have charts, we have grades, and we have a basic dashboard. If I take a look at the other dashboard, which is the executive dashboard, it looks like this. They are quite similar, and those two can be created with Sencha command. Let's look at our first example, our first demo. What I will be doing is just using Sencha command to create a simple application. I have downloaded Sencha command and the ExtJS SDK. This is available to you only if you have a valid license. So basically what I'm gonna do is open a PowerShell window. And I am just going to run a basic command here. So I'm just gonna tell Sencha that I want to use my SDK. And I'm gonna use the current SDK that I have here. I'm gonna tell it to generate an app, let's say on a classic toolkit. I'm just gonna call it my app. And I want to create it in this same folder, and I'm just gonna name it, let's say, my first app. I will hit enter. Let me just show you the full text. I'm just gonna hit enter and wait for Sencha to do its magic. and it's done. So as you can see here, this is what Sencha command created for us. This is our first app. Let's take a look at what has been created. So basically what I'm gonna do is just load the new app. And this is how it looks. Right now what it created is something really simple. It has basically a grid with all the functionalities on, just like I told you before with the kitchen sink. And it has 4 sections on the left. This is quite simple and you can use this as a basic starting point. However, if this is not enough and you want something more complex, we can also try a different command. Instead of creating just a basic application, what I will do next is instead create an administrator. So let me just run another PowerShell window. And this time I'm gonna run the command inside the SDK. And what I'm gonna do is tell Sencha to generate an app, and it will use the templates folder with the admin dashboard. I'm gonna call my app my admin, and this time around I'm gonna locate it inside a folder outside the current SDK, and I'm gonna call this say my admin. I'm gonna hit enter. It is also going to take a few minutes, but once it's done, we will have the exact same thing that I showed you online. It is a good idea to refresh our app. So I'm just gonna say Sencha app refresh. And once it's done, I will be able to look at the admin dashboard. And here it is. Just like I said, exactly the same example that we have online. One of the great things about this is that you can go in, hide options from the menu, add your new ones, and you will have a working administrator. Finally, what we will be doing is just creating a basic grid. I will grab the first example and create a grid with our own data. I will be using code to create this example. However, you can use any IDE that you like. Here is our file structure. Our main app will be saved inside the app folder. And here I'm just gonna go inside the view main folder where we have the main.js file. In the case of this basic example, this is where we have our menu. As you can see here, we have home, users, groups, and settings, which matches what we have here, home, users, groups, and settings. So I will be taking out these 3 options at the bottom, and I will add a new one. I will leave home there just to have the basic example still there. What I'm doing is just copying and pasting. Let's say this is our webinar. Great. And for icons, we can use anything inside the Font Awesome library. And inside this option, what I'm going to do is add the actual object. I could add a grid to show the information inside this option. However, what I'm doing here is linking to a main list, which is basically the same that home has there. For now, let me just take it out. Later, we will change that. We go back to our example and take a look at it. All the other options are gone, and now we have home and webinar grid. And webinar grid is empty since we haven't put anything in there. So let's say what I'm going to do is just call this webinar grid. So now I'm just gonna create a new folder inside the view. I'm gonna call this webinar. Could be anything that I want. And instead of webinar, I'm just gonna create a new JS file. And this is gonna be grid.js. Here, I'm going to create that actual grid. So just To make this a little bit faster, what I'm gonna do is just use the same list that I have here. Use that as a basis. Let's say example for a webinar. Okay, now this is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna create a new class. The class must have the name of our project and then the name of the folders and the class. So right now this is located inside view and webinar. So I'm just gonna change this for view webinar. And this is the name of the class. I'm just gonna call it grid. It must be the same name than the file. It's going to be extending from this existing class. And the X type, I can put any name I want, but it has to be the same that I have here. This is the name I am using to link the menu with the actual grid. I'm gonna put a new title. I'm gonna just type example. And in a few minutes, I will explain what's going on with everything else. So to make it work, what I have to do is load that file. So what I'm going to be doing here is basically adding that class here. So I want to include my app, view, webinar dot grid. Let's try it. Okay, I'm looking at the homepage. If I go to the webinar grid, right now they are the same. They just have a different title because that's what I did. Basically, I duplicated what I had in home and created the webinar grid. So if I go back to my code, here we can find a bunch of options. Right now, it's loading data from the personal store. Just gonna take those out for a second. I'm just gonna say that I want this to be something else. Let's say this is just a basic catalog of products. So I'm just gonna call this product name. Then I'm gonna call the next one description. I'm gonna put here quantity. And let's just say price. This is the title for the column. And this is the actual name that will be linked to the store. And in the case we are loading this from the backend, this has to match the name of the field from the backend. So right now I'm just gonna call this product name, description, quantity, and price. So if I save this and try it again, it's going to be an empty grid now because I don't have any data being loaded, but it has the new titles. Notice how everything is spread here, the actual size of each column. That comes from the flex and the width values. So I can add a width value, let's say 200 pixels if I want, or I can use flex to distribute the available width with the numbers I have there. So for example, if I say this value here of 2, a description is going to measure 2 times whatever available quantity and price is. Product name now measures 200 pixels. And this is double the size, just like I said, from available quantity and price. So now let's say that we want to create a store. I'm gonna create a new one. I'm just gonna call it catalog.js. And same deal, just for time purposes, I'm just gonna duplicate whatever I had inside personal. So it is the same deal. I'm creating a new class. It's going to be my app store, since this is the folder, and the name of the class. This time I am extending from X data store, and the alias, it's equivalent to my X type. It has to start with the store, and then I have to give it a name. So it can be the same thing. And right now I'm not using a model. And the data can come from the backend. If that's the case, I would specify AJAX here and the actual URL where the data is coming from. But for now, what I'm going to be doing is just having all the data listed here directly. So instead of having these values here, what I have to do is use the actual fields we had. So I had product name. This is JavaScript, so it is case sensitive. I'm just gonna say speaker description, let's say it's a Bluetooth speaker. Quantity, say we have 3 available. And price, let's say it's 99. I'm gonna add just a few more. Microphone, keyboard, mouse. Let's add another one. And we have also a mousepad. And same deal, I can put here a basic description. So this is a Bluetooth microphone. And right now this is going to be loaded from memory, just like it is here. So basically we have it ready here and we have to load the store. So this time around, I have to actually specify where the data is coming from. So after I do this, we can test it again. And here it is. This is the data we have. So to add the format, all I'm going to do is tell the formatter to use the format US money. So if we want to add filters, all we have to do is add the plugin. So I'm activating the grid filters and I have to tell ExtJS which columns have a filter. So let's just say here that I add a filter string. Let's try it again and see what happens. So if I go to description, this one does not have a filter, but if I go to product name, it does have a filter and I can type mouse and search. So as you can see, creating a grid is quite fast and easy. Adding options is also quite easy, but we have a lot of power here and we can add a bunch of options. But for now, this is the only demo I will be showing with grids. We have reached the end of our presentation. However, I just want to let you know that we have our Sencha documentation at docs.sencha.com. And here you can find information about all our software and different versions. If you want to find more about what's new on our latest version that came out a couple of months ago, you can go in here and see exactly what's up. For example, we have a vertical slider for the more modern toolkit. We also have a list filter for the modern grid, and we have several other new options. Please take some time, take a look at it, see how complete our documentation is. I am Andres Villalba. Thank you for your time, and we're moving to a session of question and answers.
So thank you, Andres, for this pre-recorded session or presentation, I should say, and welcome back, Matthias Eising. If you're going to help us with a Q&A session here.
I will do my best.
That's excellent. I just want to present myself. My name is David Farnabo, and I'm the product manager for Sencha here at Alfasoft. If you have any questions about Sencha moving forward or would like to download a trial or something, my email is david@alfasoft.com. david@alfasoft.com, but you can also reach me on this info@alfasoft.com, as you can see on the screen. So with that said, let's move on to the next session or next part of this session, the Q&A session. I have actually received a few questions for you, Matthias. So I guess we start right away, okay?
Okay.
So what's the difference between the professional and enterprise edition?
Yeah, it all comes down to the advanced tool, which are included in the Enterprise Edition. Both versions include the standard, the core ExtJS SDK, and several tools like Sencha Theme and Sencha Architect, the visual design tool from Sencha, to visual design your application, which is quite nice. However, on the other side, the bigger version, the enterprise license, includes the Sencha tester, the inspector, and some advanced components like the pivot grid, the calendar component, and the ability to perform data export. And last but not least, the D3 adapter for data visualization.
Okay, thank you. That explains that. Next question is about connection. Which backend technologies can ExtJS connect to?
Oh, that's a good question. In general, ExtJS is backend agnostic, so you can connect to any data as long as you can get some AJAX or REST response from the backend. So if you're planning to do your backend, let's say in C# .NET environments, you're fine with it. If you want to do it with Embarcadero Delphi, which is my part of my work, you can do it. So if you got some REST server or AJAX server which sends out data, Sencha Ext JS can consume this data and present it within your JavaScript HTML client-side application.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Looking at in the chat window, there is one more question. If you have more questions, please add them in the chat window and I'll read them up here. The third question is there a tutorial or any place that you would recommend me to start with?
Absolutely. Just go to the docs.sencha.com website, and I would recommend to start with our music video preview player, which is a simple tutorial that explains how to do the basic things. There are other tutorials on the docs.sencha.com site where you can get started with Sencha Ext JS and see all these wonderful HTML components which Sencha Ext JS provides.
Excellent, and we will send out these links after the session, probably next week sometime for your awareness. I cannot see any more questions actually, so I would like to thank you both for this presentation